So, as I already said, the research explores the issue of 3 decades of democratization in former Soviet republics, and we know that the dissolution of Soviet Union in early 90s marked a pivotal moment in world history, resulting in the creation of 50 new sovereign republics that had to navigate the complex terrain of political transition. And the varying outcomes of this transition raise today important questions about the key factors that hinder and influence democratization in this region. So first, is democratization a natural outcome of economic development or modernization, or it is shaped more by external influences such as foreign intervention, regional power dynamics, or the persistence of Soviet-era political structures? Before answering these questions, I would like to address the theoretical framework of the research, which is related to the third wave of democratization. We know that according to this theory, global trends and regional pressures can accelerate the political transition, but the successful democratization mostly depends on the strength of civil society, the developed economy, and strong state institutions. As for modernization theory, which was considered for a long time as a cornerstone for studying democratization, so we know that the success of democratization depends on the economic development, and in this regard, the cases of Baltic states can serve as an appropriate example. While modernization theory emphasizes the role of development, political elite theory is focused more on the role of political elites and their influence shaping democratization. And in the former Soviet context, there are some countries and as well as elites that hinder the democratization, and for example, elites who were once a part of Soviet apparatus maintained a significant control over newly independent republics, often consolidating the political power in the hand of small groups. Like the persistence of oligarchic structures and as well the lack of genuine political competition for power have made democratization really difficult and even impossible in case of some former Soviet republics. So the hybrid regimes or transitional governments, these regimes serve to understand broadly the whole dynamics and the variety of political systems in post-Soviet space, and especially these regimes often feature elections, political parties, some democratic institutions, but they really lack the democratic freedoms like free press, like the rule of law, the protection of human rights, etc. To broadly perceive the democratization in this region, we have to pay attention on democracy indexes and compare them. That the data is assessed by Freedom House at least for the last 10 years. So according to this data, we can define 3 groups of countries taking into account their trajectory to democratization. First group includes Baltic states that were most successful in their democratization, and especially due to their previous democratic experience and the geographical maybe neighborhood to European democracies. The second group includes transitional governments like Armenia, Georgia, Ukraine, and Moldova. These countries are likely intended to pursue their democratic path of development despite Russia's huge pressure on them to stay in its zone of influence. And finally, the third group includes other 8 former Soviet republics with their consolidated authoritarian regimes and autocratic trends, as well as irreplaceable political leaders like in case of Belarus, Azerbaijan, Russia, and previously in Kazakhstan. Democratization in these countries has more declarative nature, and there is no evidence that these societies make really forced to fight for their democratic future. So, summarizing, I can say that unfortunately after 3 decades, the majority of former Soviet republics failed to democratize. Now let's define what were the main challenges on this way, which are related first to the legacy of Soviet authoritarianism, which is perhaps the most significant factor hindering democratization in this region, and We know that the Soviet rule was characterized by its centralized top-down political structure, as well as the lack of political participation and the total suppression of dissent, and consequently citizens didn't have an appropriate experience of participatory governance. The next challenge is related to the economic component, because the transition from a centrally planned economy to market-oriented one was really challenging, especially for societies that didn't have any experience of market economy. That's why the privatization of state assets in early 90s led to the emergence of oligarchs who gained control first on the key sectors of the economy, and after they strive to put more control on the making of political decisions, becoming at the same time part of political authorities. The next challenge is related to regional geopolitics, especially Russian influence in its near abroad, because Russia was always opposed to democratization in neighboring countries, and this position played a crucial and significant role in hindering democratization in this region. And the final challenge maybe is the weakness of civil society. While in some former Soviet republics like Armenia, Ukraine, Moldova, or Georgia, civil society played an important role in pushing for democratic reforms. In other countries, it remains very weak and underdeveloped. Let's define foreign influences on democratization, which are related to the international organizations' policies like European Union, NATO, OSCE that strive to support democratization in this region through various political and economic assistance. Mainly, the European Union played an important role and served as a catalyst for democratization in Baltic states, and due also to its neighboring policy. As for other countries, EU today aims to strengthen ties with other former Soviet republics, so gaining more power and influence in this region. Like relations with Armenia, Ukraine, Moldova, we know also the case of Georgia, but because of new government foreign policy, there are some problems related to their relations with European Union. As for the United States, as a major global power, it also played an important role supporting democratization in former Soviet republics due to its diplomatic efforts, political leverages, economic and technical assistance. But however, in some cases, the United States support was clashed with its geopolitical competition with Russia, and that's why in some former Soviet republics with huge energy resources like Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, or Turkmenistan, sometimes the United States prioritize its broader geopolitical and economic interests over promotion of democratic principles. As for China's role, its influence in the region is considerably growing, and it provides these states with an alternative to Western financial and political support. Like Russia, China doesn't promote democracy in the region and is more focused on the stability of the region. And finally, let's define the conclusions of our research. Here we have some former Soviet republics, as I already mentioned, Baltic states that successfully transitioned to democratic systems and are now fully integrated into European structures. Some others, like transitional governments, still make efforts to pursue their democratic path of development and overcome authoritarian tendencies. And the third group countries have built consolidated authoritarian regimes, centralized power, and are fully deep set in hindering democratization in the region. The case of Armenia's democratization is quite particular because Armenia is the only former Soviet republic having close borders with two of its four neighbors, huge dependence on energy supplies from Russia, being militarily invaded, but it is the most democratically positioned country in the region. As for the Future of democratization, it depends on several key factors like domestic political will and strength of civil society, capacity of regional and international actors to provide more consistent and nuanced support for democratic institutions, as well as more resilient and diversified approaches to democratic promotion are needed. The region's future will be shaped by the ability of its citizens, governments, as well as international actors to adapt to the changing global environment and as well as to navigate the complex political terrain. Lessons learned from the democratization, successes or failures in former Soviet republics will be crucial not only for this region but also for the understanding the broader dynamics of democratic transitions in other parts of the world. Thank you for your attention.